All Prime Ministers these days have to be Prime Ministers for Foreign Affairs, and there's little doubt that Scott Morrison is excelling in that aspect of his job. As last night's speech to the Lowy Institute showed, without imagining that Australia can change the world overnight on its own, Morrison knows that we do count for something and can make a difference, provided it's on our terms and doesn't compromise the sovereignty we have as an independent country in our own right.
Our interests are not served by isolationism and protectionism, but it also does not serve our national interests when international institutions demand conformity rather than independent cooperation on global issues. The world works best, we believe, I believe, when the character and distinctiveness of independent nations is preserved with a framework of mutual respect.
I wrote about this very issue in last weekend's Sunday papers after watching the treatment dished out to nations like us that didn't sign up to even higher climate change targets at the recent UN meetings in New York. As punishment, Australia was banned from speaking at the climate summit, which was a fizzer by all accounts, but even so, even after we were so shabbily treated by the global bureaucrats, they still had the gall to demand Australian taxpayers pay into their new $4 trillion climate fund. Just another reason, I suppose, we should all be thankful Scott Morrison is not Malcolm Turnbull, because this money grab has got to stop. As Australians, we should never forget our successes where the rest of the world has failed, like stopping the boats, while at the same time being one of only 27 nations in the world to offer a home and a new life to refugees who come the right way. For all their moral posturing, over 160 other nations in the world do not. Economically, we should also be very proud that our resource exports build and power the world. We're the 12th largest economy, even with our small population, and we've got a well-funded military to match. And we're an important source of food security to our region and beyond. To my mind, three aspects of last night's speech by the Prime Minister were especially worth noting and welcome. While the Prime Minister acknowledged China's importance as a trading partner and paid justifiable tribute to China's economic miracle and its benefits to the wider world, including Australia, he also made it crystal clear that America is our most important relationship. The American alliance is Australia's past, present and future, Morrison said. Now, John Howard used to say that Australia did not have to choose between its history and its geography. And then, that may well have been true, but if Australia ever does have to choose, as Morrison made clear last night, we're on America's side. It was an important reminder to business leaders and to university vice-chancellors who still look at China with dollar signs in their eyes that it's in Australia's long-term national interest to uphold our values as well as just boost our trade. Then there was the PM's emphasis on our growing relationship with India, which, let's face it, is the world's emerging democratic superpower. He noted the elevation of the so-called quadrilateral security dialogue between America, Japan, India and Australia, the Indo-Pacific's key democracies. He noted it was upgraded now under him to ministerial level. And in a message that could hardly have been missed in Beijing, he described India as, quote, our natural partner to be elevated into the top tier of Australia's friends. Finally, there was Morrison's welcome affirmation of the primacy of the nation-state. Of course, putting Australia first most emphatically does not mean Australia only, as the globalists like to claim it does, but it does recognise that people's principal attachments are to family, community and country, rather than to the global beast that is the United Nations or any other sort of global world order. In a clear message to climate crusaders and to the Open Borders Brigade, Morrison rejected appeals to some ill-defined, borderless global community. And he rejected demands for conformity from, in his world, an unaccountable international bureaucracy in favour of independent cooperation, he said, between sovereign states. And he backed up these sentiments again today in a little more bluntly message while on a visit to Burnie in northern Tasmania.
Engaged in many multilateral institutions, but the ones I find most constructive are the ones that respect the sovereignty of each and individual state. And, we've taken issues to an election, we've taken policies to an election. Well, they're the policies I'll implement. I won't be pushed into other policies by global institutions.
In practice, what the Prime Minister's comments mean for us is stronger than ever partnerships with like-minded allies, more trade deals, especially with a post-Brexit Britain, and a determination for Australia not to get caught up in any more one-sided international treaties, which are all burden for countries like us and all benefit for countries that don't share our values. At one level, Morrison's speech was an orthodox reiteration of standard Australian positions. But given the China bandwagon and all the politically correct deference to global bodies like the UN, it was a brave and necessary statement of important truths. And I hope as many people as possible take the time to give it a careful read.